Hey you guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Ruby, I live in New York City, and this is my lifestyle channel, so be sure to go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. We're trying to reach 7K here on this channel. I also post daily content over on TikTok, and our next goal over there is to hit 25,000 followers, so be sure to go follow me over there as well. It's a really fun time. So, as you guys know, I do a monthly kind of like reading wrap-up series where I talk about every single book that I read during that month, my thoughts, the synopsis of the book. The last month and a half has been very unexpected and hectic, to say the least. For those who don't know, I was in Nashville the entire month of June and the first 2 weeks of July, helping my dad recover from open heart surgery. I flew down to Nashville June 2nd, so I didn't even have time to film my books I read in May video prior to flying down. And then throughout June and most of July, because it was just so kind of like unpredictable, to say the least, I really didn't do like a ton of reading. Not nearly enough to dedicate an entire video to. So instead, what I thought I could do is, for this time and this time only, I am going to combine May through July, and we're going to talk about all of the books that I read during those months. After this video, we will be back on schedule with the normal monthly uploads of this series, but I hope you guys don't mind kind of like doing it a little odd this time. But yeah, let's just get into everything that I read May through July. Okay, so I think I told you guys in my books I read in April video that I was currently starting another Taylor Jenkins Reid book, one that is incredibly popular. You can probably guess what it is. I finished it in a matter of days during the beginning of May, and that book is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by, again, Taylor Jenkins Reid. So let's get into the synopsis. I'm going to be reading off of my iPad. Aging and reclusive Hollywood movie icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant for the job, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Why her? Why now? Monique is not exactly on top of the world. Her husband has left her and her professional life is going nowhere. Regardless of why Evelyn has selected her to write her biography, Monique is determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career. Summoned to Evelyn's luxurious apartment, Monique listens in fascination as the actress tells her story. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to her decision to leave show business in the 80s, and of course the 7 husbands along the way. Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. Monique begins to feel a very real connection to the legendary star, but as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. Heartbreaking yet beautiful, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is Tinseltown drama at its finest, a mesmerizing journey through the splendor of old Hollywood into the harsh realities of the present day as 2 women struggle with what it means and what it costs to face the truth. This book is quite possibly like one of the most popular books of my current generation, I feel. And I can't remember, but it's either being turned into a movie or a mini-series. I think it's a mini-series. Very, very eager to see who ends up being cast in that project. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. First of all, just a little bit about me. I typically really like books based in the entertainment industry and Hollywood and everything like that. I really enjoyed this. The stakes were high for me reading this because I feel like it's so like hyped up, and everybody who reads it is like, oh my god, you must read like The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, like what are you doing? How have you never read it before? I felt like it was paced perfectly. It wasn't too slow, it didn't move too quickly. You really got to enjoy the book, if that makes sense. Now I will say, and this is not in any way to say that I did not enjoy this book, because let me be very clear, I totally did. I know that for most people, when ranking Taylor Jenkins Reid books, typically this is their #1, but for me, I still have to go with Daisy Jones and the Six being my #1. That book was so incredibly different in the way that it was written, and I feel like it just, I don't know, it resonated with me a little bit more. These books were both fantastic in their own way, but for me, like, it's really not a close call in terms of like which one is my favorite. I definitely still am team Daisy Jones and the Six, although this was fantastic and it truly was like a 5 out of 5 for me, just for like very different reasons. There's been a lot of books that I've given a 5 out of 5 to, but I would say that they're all kind of like ranked in their own like little tier, if that makes sense. Without spoiling too much, I did not see the like big plot twist coming that happens towards the end of the book when Monique realizes why she's been hired to write Evelyn's novel, or Evelyn's life story I should say. Definitely like did not see it coming. Maybe like a page prior I kind of had like a feeling, but I definitely didn't guess where it was heading at the beginning of the book. It was just a incredibly enjoyable read, and I understand what people have said when they're like, I wish, like that's a book that I wish I could reread for the first time. Totally get that. I feel like there's not much to say on this one, only because it's been like so hyped up and talked about. In my opinion, it totally lives up to the hype. I would just still be on team Daisy Jones and the Six, and I'm super excited for that series to come out. Not that I'm not excited for this as well, but I don't know, there was just something about that one that just like really like got me. But with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I feel like there was still a ton of like depth to the book. It had a sense of like complexity as well, if that makes sense. Really, really enjoyable, and a great way for sure to start off this month's video. So the way that I get the majority of my Kindle books is through the Libby Library app, and sometimes for the more popular books there can be like quite a few weeks wait for the books. So kind of in between waiting for some of the other like more popular books to arrive, I was just kind of looking at like what was available. Maybe there was a book that I hadn't really heard about but looked interesting to me. I knew that I wanted something light and romantic after reading something as kind of heavy at times as Evelyn Hugo. So I ended up landing on The Wedding Date by Jasmine Gilroy. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I saw that it was a USA Today bestseller. It seemed cute, so let's just read the synopsis. Agreeing to go to a wedding with a guy she gets stuck in an elevator with is something Alexa Monroe wouldn't normally do, but there's something about Drew Nichols that's hard to resist. On the eve of his ex's wedding festivities, Drew is minus a +1 until a power outage strands him with the perfect candidate for a fake girlfriend. After Alexa and Drew have more fun than they ever thought possible, Drew has to fly back to Los Angeles and his job as a pediatric surgeon, and Alexa heads home to Berkeley where she's the mayor's chief of staff. Too bad they can't stop thinking about each other. They're just two high-powered professionals on a collision course towards the long-distance dating disaster of the century, or closing the gap between what they think they need and what they truly want. This is not a bash to the book at all. It's just the only way that I know how to describe it. It was a easily predictable, sweet, romantic comfort read. It was kind of everything that I thought it would be. Was it like my absolute favorite book? No. Was it worth the read? Yes. It was a bit cliche in terms of like the plot and storyline, but so many other like rom-com books are, and I'm somebody who's very much okay with that because sometimes that's just what we're in the mood to read. It was a super quick read for me. I think I got through this in like a day and a half basically. I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 5 only because I don't think it necessarily like really stood out for me, but I didn't like not enjoy reading it, if that makes sense. I just feel kind of neutral about it. I feel like there's not much to like speak on in terms of the book. I'd be really interested to read more from the author because I think that they have a lot of other like really popular books. But yeah, this one was like fine, sweet, kind of in the middle for me. Okay, so the next book that I read was called Chloe Cates is Missing by Mandy McHugh, and this was a book that I saw recommended to me on some like random blog that I stumbled upon, maybe like underrated Kindle books or something like that. But let's get into the synopsis, obviously. Okay. Chloe Cates is missing. The 13-year-old star of the hit web series CC and Me has disappeared and nobody knows where she's gone. Least of all, ruthless momager Jennifer Scarborough, who has spent much of her daughter's young life crafting a child celebrity persona that is finally beginning to pay off. And in Chloe's absence, the faux fairy tale world that supported that persona begins to fracture, revealing secrets capable of reducing the highly dysfunctional Scarborough family to rubble. Anxious to find her daughter and preserve the life she's worked so hard to build, Jennifer turns to social media for help, but the hearsay, false claims, and salacious suspicions only multiply. As the search becomes as sensational as Chloe's series, missing persons detective Emelina Stone steps in, only to realize she has a connection to the case herself. Will she be able to stay objective and cut through the rumors to find the truth before it's too late? Told from multiple points of view, including Jennifer, Emelina, and pages from Chloe's lost diary, Chloe Cates is Missing is a suspenseful novel of a child pushed to the brink and of a troubled family that desperately needs her back. This is such an underrated thriller. Let me just say that. I am so glad that I stumbled upon this book suggestion. First of all, super interesting perspective, like to write a book about like a young internet sensation. I feel like for as timely as that is, it's still not being done that much. And then combining that like with a horrific like stage parent, for lack of a better word, really interesting. Personally, again, I had no idea where this book was going. I kept making guesses and then I kept like being right but also wrong at the same time. I really like the fact that the book is written from multiple different viewpoints. It really adds to the kind of whole like whodunit theme. Again, I zipped through this one, but I was like hanging on to the book, hoping that I still had more to read. I feel like this could be one of those books that becomes super popular in like the book talk realm and becomes like one that everybody's talking about. Again, I'm gonna rate this one a 5 out of 5 for me. I just really enjoyed it. I love a good thriller. I love a good fast-paced thriller. This one just felt different and timely and interesting and all of the things that I've already said. But definitely recommend checking that one out. And because it's not like super popular yet, it's one that's usually pretty easy to rent if you use Libby like myself or other like book library or like virtual library services. Okay, lastly, I actually read 2 Colleen Hoover books. I try every single month to not read too much of one author, but I had 2 Colleen Hoover books that I was on the waiting list for on the Libby app, like I said, and they both became available at the same time. I was really excited to read Confess because I feel like it's one of the Colleen Hoover books that still isn't like talked about that much, especially like, I don't know, when I've looked up book reviews of hers or like ranking Colleen Hoover books, I feel like I just never hear people talk about it, so I was really excited. And as you guys know, I love Colleen Hoover like everybody else. I really enjoy her books, so I had high hopes that I was gonna like this one, even though I hadn't heard as much about it. At age 21, Auburn Reed has already lost everything important to her. In her fight to rebuild her shattered life, she has her goals in sight and there is no room for mistakes. But when she walks into a Dallas art studio in search of a job, she doesn't expect to find a deep attraction to the man who works there, Owen Gentry. For once, Auburn takes a chance and puts her heart in control, only to discover that Owen is keeping a major secret from coming out. The magnitude of his past threatens to destroy everything important to Auburn, and the only way to get her life back on track is to cut Owen out of it. To save their relationship, all Owen needs to do is confess. But in this case, the confession could be much more destructive than the actual sin. So, let me say it again, so underrated. Wow, this book was good. I don't know why more people aren't talking about this book. This might be one of my top Colleen Hoover picks. I'm not saying that the first half of the book was slow by any means, but the second half of the book, I like zipped through it and it got so good and like just so, I don't know, the pace was a little faster, I guess. But again, I'm not saying that the first half of the book was slow. You obviously just kind of like had to do a lot of setup. The chemistry between the characters, just like great. Again, Colleen like hits it out of the ballpark. What I thought was fun about it too is it's one of those books that kind of makes you question, like, do you believe in fate or do you not? And of course I think that fate kind of plays a little part into everything, and so for those who definitely like lean into that and believe that, I really think you'll like this book. The twist at the end, like I can't say anything about it without spoiling literally like the entire plot of the book, but it literally like almost made me cry, and I'm not even kidding. You will not regret reading this book. I know that it's a bit of like a lesser known pick, but yes. I know that It Ends With Us is already in like pre-production, but I want this to become a movie next. It's heart-wrenching, it's sweet, it's emotional, like very emotional at times. Is it clear to you guys that I'm about to rate this a 5 out of 5? Because I am, no surprise here. I just like, yeah, I really enjoyed this. I feel like we have to move on, but moral of the story is it's heavily underrated and so worth the read. Okay, finally the last book included in today's video, again, another Colleen Hoover book, is November 9. Now, this one on the other hand, while I feel like it's not the most popular Colleen Hoover book, I have heard so many people talk about and so many people include in like their top 5 in terms of like picks from her. So I was really interested to read this one because I kind of wanted to know like what the hype was about. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it's their top pick from her, but it always makes the top 5 for most people. So I was like, all right, what am I missing here? Fallon meets Ben, an aspiring novelist, the day before her scheduled cross-country move. Their untimely attraction leads them to spend Fallon's last day in Los Angeles together, and her eventful life becomes the creative inspiration Ben has always sought for his novel. Over time, and amidst the various relationships and tribulations of their own separate lives, they continue to meet on the same date every year, until one day Fallon becomes unsure if Ben has been telling her the truth or fabricating a perfect reality for the sake of the ultimate plot twist. Can Ben's relationship with Fallon and simultaneously his novel be considered a love story if it ends in heartbreak? Okay, let's start with the good. Not that there's anything like bad to talk about per se, but let's just start with what I really liked about the book. Really interesting plot and really interesting way of writing where the characters literally only meet up for one day a year, the same day every year. And that also really helps because you're not filling the book with like a ton of fluff. You're getting like the necessary plot points that you need to develop the character, further the plot along, and just keep it interesting. It never felt slow to me once. Again, this is another book that just like, you'll never really feel bored. Good thing number two, I definitely did really like the character of Fallon and her development and journey of like self-worth, self-confidence, independence, and womanhood, if that makes sense. I like that the character of Fallon also had ties to theater and the arts. You guys know I always like reading about that stuff. It's what I want to do with my life. And I also did really like the plot twist in this book. I wasn't sure like how these characters, I had a feeling that their lives somehow like previously intersected. I just wasn't sure how, and I definitely was like pleasantly surprised. Is that the right word? Like, I didn't feel like I had wasted my time reading a book where I could have easily guessed like how these people's lives cross paths. But that kind of leads me to like the next half of this review, which is, if I'm being totally honest, I don't really get the hype around this book. I liked it, like, do not get me wrong. I didn't not like it. I can't really talk about the things I didn't love about this book without giving away some spoilers. So if you haven't read this book yet and you want to, definitely like skip a couple minutes ahead. I'm sorry, but I don't think that Fallon and Ben should have ended up together. Like, I completely understand why they hit it off in the beginning, why they were good for each other, why they were supportive of each other, but after like the big twist comes out, I can understand Fallon wanting to forgive Ben, but I don't understand her just kind of being okay to the point that like she wants to stay with him. I just like can't justify them staying together when we know like the damage that he caused in her life. And while he tried to like make amends and become a better person, I do believe that he did become a better person. And I'm not saying that like they couldn't stay in each other's lives necessarily. I just like, by the end of it, I was not rooting for them romantically like at all. Which I think in order to like rant and rave about this book, you have to want them to be together regardless. And I just didn't. I just felt like because they ended up together, the resolution was just like, so-so. It was kind of mediocre. By no means, again, am I saying I regret reading the book or that I was bored, but it definitely would not be in my top 5 from Colleen Hoover. And I'm just kind of struggling to see where and why people would put it in theirs. Again, I guess they're probably rooting for the two characters at the end. I just really was not. I kind of struggled with my rating of this because, again, I didn't like not enjoy reading this. I just didn't like the last like 10% of the book basically. But I liked everything else leading up to that. I even was like surprised, like I said, by the plot twist. I just didn't like what Fallon did with that like giant piece of information. So because of all of that, I'm gonna give this book a 4 out of 5. Like, definitely still think it's worth the read. It's a good addition to like the Colleen Hoover canon, if you will. But I don't know, I feel like very conflicted about it. Not that conflicted, honestly, because like I didn't want them to stay together, but conflicted and almost like, I guess, confused for those who are like, this is my favorite, or like this is in my top 5 or in my top 3. And like, I'm not judging those people because that's what's so beautiful about books and just life in general, is everybody can have their own opinion on things. And that's why art and like writing included in that is subjective. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. Okay. There you guys have it. Those are all of the books that I read. May through July. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, and again, click that subscribe button down below because we're trying to reach 7,000. Be sure to follow me on all of my other social media networks, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I have an Amazon shop. I have a like to know it page. That's all in the description box down below, along with some discount codes to some of my favorite brands that I think you guys really enjoy. I love you all so much. I hope that you guys are staying safe, happy, and healthy, and I will talk to you all again very, very soon in my next video. Okay, bye everybody.